Most houseplants are lying to you. The label says low light. The plant dies in 3 weeks. You blame yourself, buy another one, and repeat the cycle while the garden center quietly profits from every replacement. Here is what nobody tells you. Some plants spent millions of years evolving on the floors of dense rainforests where direct sunlight never reached. Number 17 was used in Victorian hospitals before electric lighting existed. Number 1 has been documented, growing in conditions so dark that scientists initially refused to believe the measurements. These 20 plants do not just survive dark rooms, they were built for them. Number 20, snake plant. Snake plant earned its position at the start of every darkroom plant conversation through evidence rather than marketing. Most plants would describe a north-facing room with one small window as hostile territory. Snake plant describes it as adequate. It evolved on the rocky outcrops and forest edges of West Africa, where dappled, inconsistent light was the best available option for most of the year. Its photosynthetic pathway allows it to operate efficiently in light conditions that shut other plants down entirely. The leaves stand rigid and upright like green and yellow swords, architectural enough that interior designers specify it in spaces where other plants would look like an afterthought. Water once every 2 to 3 weeks in summer, once a month in winter. That is the entire relationship it asks for. The next plant was so valued in ancient Rome, it was traded by weight alongside precious metals. Its survival skills are in a completely different category. Number 19, pothos. Pothos is the plant most commonly described as unkillable. And unlike most things described that way, the reputation is earned. It originates from the Solomon Islands in the South Pacific, where it grows on the forest floor beneath a canopy so dense that the light reaching it is a fraction of what exists above. That is the light level pothos was designed to work with. A dark room in your home is brighter than the forest floor it evolved on. Here is a fact that changes how most people look at this plant. Pothos has been observed growing in conditions so dim that photosynthesis measurements initially came back negative in some studies. Researchers assumed instrument error. The plant was simply operating at a threshold so low the instruments struggled to detect it. It does not just tolerate low light. It has refined low light survival into something approaching an art form. If you have not subscribed yet, hit that button right now. Every week this channel publishes exactly this kind of knowledge, the practical guides that tell you what actually works, rather than what the garden center wants you to buy and replace. Keep pothos away from children and pets. The leaves contain calcium oxalate crystals that cause oral irritation if chewed. The next plant was carried by Buddhist monks across Asia, specifically because it thrived in temple interiors, where incense smoke blocked most available light. Number 18, ZZ plant. Most plants in dark rooms look like they are surviving. ZZ plant looks like it is flourishing, and the reason is an adaptation so unusual that when botanists described it properly in the 1990s, it prompted genuine surprise in the research community. Here is what nobody tells you. The ZZ plant went largely unrecorded in Western botany until 1996, despite being native to Eastern Africa, because it grows in such extreme conditions that plant collectors rarely ventured into the environments where it thrives. A plant overlooked by Western botanists for centuries because the habitat was too inhospitable for humans to study comfortably is a plant that will handle your dark living room without a second thought. Water once every 3 to 4 weeks. In winter, once every 6 weeks is often sufficient. The next plant has a history so dramatic it was smuggled across international borders for centuries to protect the monopoly of the countries that grew it. Number 17, peace lily. Peace lily is the plant that Victorian hospitals kept in wards before electric lighting transformed indoor environments. In rooms where light was insufficient for most ornamental plants, peace lily not only survived, but continued producing its distinctive white flowers, making it the only flowering plant on this list that performs in genuinely low light conditions. Here is a fact most people find remarkable. Peace lily appeared in NASA's Clean Air study as one of the most effective plants tested for removing ammonia, benzene, formaldehyde, and trichloroethylene from enclosed spaces. Ammonia from cleaning products accumulates in poorly ventilated rooms at concentrations that cause headaches and respiratory irritation. Peace lily placed in a bathroom or kitchen measurably reduces this accumulation over time. The white spathe flowers unfurl from the center of the plant slowly over several days, pale and elegant in a way that very few houseplants manage in dim conditions. A flowering peace lily in a dark room produces a visual impact that most plants in full sun cannot match. It droops slightly when thirsty and recovers completely within hours of watering, communicating more clearly than almost any other plant on this list. Keep away from pets and children, toxic if ingested. The next plant has been alive in various forms for over 300 million years and survived every mass extinction the planet has produced. A dark room is the least of its concerns. Number 16. Cast iron plant. The name is not a metaphor. It is a description. Cast iron plant, Aspidistra elacior, was the dominant houseplant of Victorian Britain because it survived coal smoke, gaslighting fumes, temperature extremes, and almost complete absence of natural light that characterized 19th century urban interiors. Here is what most people have no idea about. Research measuring light levels on Aspidistra's native forest floor in China and Japan found intensities so low that most standard photosynthesis models predicted the plant could not sustain itself. The plant did not receive the memo. Growth is genuinely slow. A new leaf every 4 to 6 weeks is typical. But a cast iron plant alive in a Victorian parlor in 1890 would still be alive today in the same conditions. It does not hurry. It does not need to. Water every 2 to 3 weeks. Feed once in spring. That is the entire care requirement. The next plant arrived in Europe so sought after that single specimens sold for the equivalent of a skilled worker's annual salary. Number 15. Dracaena. Dracaena is a genus of over 120 species, most sharing an evolutionary history on the shaded margins of African and Asian forests, where direct sunlight was a luxury rather than a given. Here is something that reframes how most people think about this plant. The name Dracaena comes from the Greek word for female dragon, Dracaena, because the red sap that bleeds from cut stems of certain species was believed by ancient Greeks to be dragon blood. Medieval alchemists prized the dried resin, called dragon's blood, as an ingredient in varnish, medicine, and ritual. A plant whose sap was collected by medieval alchemists and traded across the ancient world has considerably more history than most garden centers convey. Dracaena marginata, the dragon tree, with its cluster of narrow red-edged leaves on a thin trunk, tolerates low light, irregular watering, and the general neglect that dark room plants inevitably receive. Water every 2 weeks in summer, once a month in winter. Keep away from pets. Dracaena is toxic to cats and dogs. The next plant survived the bombing of Hiroshima in 1945 and was one of the first living things to grow back in the devastated area. Low light is not even a challenge by comparison. Number 14. Chinese evergreen. Chinese evergreen is the plant experienced houseplant growers quietly consider their secret weapon for rooms where everything else has failed. Here's what most people have no idea about. Aglaonema has been cultivated in Asia for centuries as a good luck plant, kept in dim interiors of homes and temples where natural light barely penetrated. The botanical explanation is more interesting than the cultural one. Aglaonema evolved in the deep shade of Southeast Asian rainforest understories, where light levels are among the lowest on Earth, while humidity and temperature remain high. It is specifically adapted to the conditions that most indoor rooms unintentionally create. The varieties range from deep green with silver patterning to vivid pink and red forms. A pink Aglaonema at the end of a dark hallway is visible from the other end of the house, making the whole corridor feel like a different space. Keep away from pets. Water every 1 to 2 weeks. Avoid cold drafts. Now for the one that most people buy for its appearance and discover only later gains value the longer it lives. Number 13. Philodendron. The Hartley philodendron originates from the tropical rainforests of Central and South America, where it grows as a climbing vine on tree trunks in deep shade beneath the canopy. The light it receives, filtered through multiple layers of dense tropical foliage, is genuinely minimal. The plant responded to that evolutionary pressure by developing one of the most efficient, low-light photosynthetic systems in the entire genus. Here is a fact. that changes the whole calculation. A 3-year-old philodendron in a hanging planter is meaningfully more effective at air purification than the same plant at the time of purchase, because the mechanism, leaf surface area in contact with room air, compounds as the plant grows. Most houseplants lose value as they age. Philodendron gains it. In corners where other plants would produce too pale, reaching leaves and give up entirely, philodendron produces dense, healthy growth that makes the corner look like a design decision rather than a neglected space. Sap from the leaves is toxic if ingested. Keep away from children and pets. The next plant was used by Japanese samurai for properties that had nothing to do with decoration. Number 12. Parlor palm. Parlor palm earned its name honestly. Victorian parlors were lit by gaslight or candles, heavily curtained, and about as far from a tropical growing environment as possible. Parlor palm thrived in them anyway. Here is what most people never know. Chamayadora elegans is native to the rainforest understory of southern Mexico and Guatemala, receiving less than 2% of the light that reaches the forest canopy above it. 2%. Most houseplants require 20 to 30% of full sunlight to maintain adequate growth. Parlor palm operates on a fraction of that. It also removes formaldehyde and benzene from indoor air, making it one of the few palms included in NASA's clean air research findings. The feathery arching fronds transform a dim corner into something that looks genuinely designed. New fronds unfurl slowly from the center, pale green and slightly translucent before they darken, each one a slow motion event worth watching. Water every 1 to 2 weeks and keep the root zone evenly moist. The next plant survived a sealed space station experiment longer than researchers expected, and came back from apparent death when conditions improved. Number 11. Spider plant. Spider plant is the plant most associated with 1970s kitchen windowsills, and that association has done it a significant reputational disservice. Most people think of it as a retro decoration. It is actually one of the most scientifically documented air purifying plants in existence. Here's the fact most people find genuinely surprising. NASA researchers found that spider plant removed 95% of toxic agents from a sealed chamber within 24 hours. 95% in one day. The compound it was particularly effective against was formaldehyde, which off-gases continuously from pressed wood furniture and carpet backing at concentrations too low to smell, but high enough to cause chronic headaches and fatigue over extended exposure. It produces cascading runners with small plantlets at the tips that root in water within 2 weeks. One plant becomes 12 within a season. A spider plant owner who repots the runners rarely pays for a houseplant again. If you have made it this far and have not hit the like button yet, do it now. It costs you nothing, and it tells us you want more guides like this one. The next plant has a history so ancient it was cultivated before the invention of writing. Number 10. Heartleaf fern. Most ferns are dishonest about their low light tolerance. They look lush in the garden center, go home into a dim room, and drop fronds within a fortnight. Heartleaf fern is the exception that proves the rule. It is native to the forest floors of Southeast Asia, growing in conditions that mainstream fern cultivation considers unsuitable for survival. The heart-shaped leaves are smaller and more compact than most ferns, a structural adaptation to the genuinely dim, consistently humid microenvironments on the forest floor, where it established itself over millions of years. The leaves are a deep, almost waxy green that seems to absorb whatever light is available rather than reflecting it, a characteristic that distinguishes plants genuinely adapted to low light from those merely marketed as tolerant of it. Keep it evenly moist in a humid bathroom or kitchen, and it produces a lush, compact mound of dark green that transforms a dim corner into something deliberately cultivated rather than accidentally neglected. The next plant was so prized by Aztec rulers that it was kept in dedicated botanical gardens, and its name in Nahuatl translates directly as shadow lover. Number 9. Rubber plant. Rubber plant is one of the most underestimated dark room plants available, and the reason it gets underestimated is the same reason it performs so well. Its large, dark, glossy leaves look like they belong in full sun, so most people assume that is where it needs to be. Here's what most people have no idea about. The rubber tree, in its native habitat in the rainforests of India and Southeast Asia, is a forest understory plant in its juvenile form, reaching the upper canopy and full sunlight only as a mature tree. Houseplant versions are perpetually juvenile, which means they are operating in the light conditions they were actually designed for. A rubber plant in a dim room is a rubber plant in its natural developmental context. The large leaves capture more light per square centimeter of space than smaller leaved alternatives, which is why it maintains healthy growth where plants with smaller leaves begin to struggle. White latex sap bleeds from any cut surface. This sap is a skin irritant and toxic if ingested. Wear gloves when pruning and keep children and pets away until cuts seal. The next plant was so important to ancient Egyptians, it appeared in tomb paintings over 3,000 years ago. Number 8. Boston Fern. Boston fern is the most effective humidifying plant available for indoor use. And in a dark room, that humidity function matters as much as the plant itself. Here is something most people never connect. Dark rooms are usually rooms with limited ventilation, often interior rooms or north-facing spaces with small windows. These same rooms tend to have lower humidity than well-ventilated spaces. Boston fern releases more moisture into surrounding air per unit of leaf mass than almost any other commonly grown houseplant, addressing the humidity deficit in dark rooms while simultaneously providing dense, lush foliage that makes a dim space feel alive rather than abandoned. In the wild, Nephrolepis exaltata grows in humid, shaded gullies and forest margins in the Americas, where bright sun never reaches, and consistent moisture is the one reliable constant. Your dark bathroom is closer to its native habitat than you might think. Keep the compost evenly moist. Mist the fronds in heated interiors where air moisture drops in winter. The next plant changed how biologists understood low-light photosynthesis after producing laboratory results that initially seemed impossible. Number 7. Prayer plant. Prayer plant does something at night that most houseplant owners have never witnessed because they are asleep when it happens. As light fades in the evening, prayer plant folds its leaves upward along the central midrib, the two halves rising toward each other like hands pressed together. In the morning, as light levels rise, the leaves flatten again. This movement, called nyctinasty, is driven by changes in water pressure in specialized cells at the base of each leaf, and happens every single day across the entire life of the plant. Here is what most people find remarkable. Prayer plant's movement is so reliable and precise that botanists in the 18th century used it as a living clock in light-controlled experiments, observing that the folding and unfolding occurred on a circadian schedule independent of external light cues, a plant whose internal timekeeping was accurate enough to serve as a scientific instrument. The leaves in dark rooms are extraordinary. Deep green base color with bright red veining on Maranta, Leuconura, Erythranura, patterns so precise they look hand-painted. Keep the compost moist and the room humid. Avoid direct sun, which bleaches the patterning the plant spent millions of years developing. The next plant is the one most frequently confused with multiple other species, and that confusion has caused most people to underestimate what it does in low light. Number 6. Dumb cane. Dumb cane earned its name honestly. The sap contains calcium oxalate crystals that, if chewed, cause immediate swelling of the mouth and tongue, severe enough to render speech impossible for several hours. Keep it entirely out of reach of children and pets. This is not a casual caution. With that clearly stated, here is what most people never know. Dieffenbachia is native to the tropical forests of the Americas, growing specifically in the zones where light penetration is among the lowest in the entire ecosystem. Its broad, paddle-shaped leaves are an evolutionary response to exactly this challenge: more surface area to capture more of the scarce available light. The variegated patterns on the leaf, cream and white against deep green, are not simply decorative. In highlight environments, pale sections containing less chlorophyll would be a disadvantage. In low light environments, the contrast between dark and pale sections creates a visual complexity that makes the plant look substantially larger and more architectural than its actual dimensions. Water every 1 to 2 weeks. Allow the top inch of soil to dry between waterings. The next plant has been found in the ruins of Pompeii, preserved under volcanic ash for 2,000 years. Number 5. Golden pothos. Golden pothos deserves a separate entry from standard pothos because what it does with available light in a dim room is meaningfully different. Here's the science most people walk past without knowing. The yellow-green variegation in golden pothos leaves contains a higher proportion of xanthophyll pigments relative to chlorophyll than plain green varieties. In full sun, this makes the variegated plant slightly less efficient. In low light, the xanthophylls function as accessory pigment, capturing light wavelengths that chlorophyll alone misses, and transferring that energy into the photosynthetic system. The variegation that looks like a cosmetic feature is actually a light harvesting adaptation. In a dark room, golden pothos produces a warm, luminous effect that makes the space feel lit from within. The yellow-green of the leaves catches and amplifies whatever light is available, reflecting it back into the room in a way that makes the corner feel brighter than it is. Interior designers specify it in dark commercial spaces for exactly this reason. One cutting becomes the most productive investment in a dark room plant collection. The next plant was so important to traditional Chinese medicine, it was cultivated in monastery gardens in shaded northern courtyards for over 1,000 years. Number 4. Chinese money plant. Pilea peperomioides arrived in Europe through an unusual chain of events. A Norwegian missionary named Agnar Espegren brought cuttings from China to Norway in 1946, and for decades, the plant spread entirely through cuttings shared between friends and neighbors, never entering commercial nursery trade. It became known as the friendship plant because the only way to get one was to know someone who already had one. Here's what most people have no idea about. Pilea peperomioides, in its native habitat in the Yunnan province of China, grows in damp, shaded conditions of forest margins and rocky outcrops below the tree line, specifically in cool, misty, low-light conditions created by altitude and dense tree cover. The round, coin-shaped leaves on long petioles give the plant a sculptural quality unlike any other on this list. In a dark room, the leaves arrange themselves to face whatever light source is available, rotating gradually over days, in a movement visible if you mark the pot and check it weekly. A plant that literally reorients itself to maximize light capture in a dim room was designed to handle exactly that challenge. The next plant was banned from export by the Chinese government for decades because of its commercial value, creating a black market that lasted until the 1970s. Number 3. Bird's nest fern. Most ferns fail in dark rooms because the feathery divided fronds that make them visually appealing are also the fronds that desiccate fastest when humidity drops and shed first when light is insufficient. Bird's nest fern is a different structure entirely. The fronds are broad, undivided, and bright green, unfurling from a central rosette in a spiral that looks, from above, exactly like a bird's nest. That broad, undivided structure is the key to what it does in low light. A single frond offers more continuous leaf surface area than the divided fronds of other ferns of comparable size, capturing more light per frond while losing less moisture. Here is a fact that stops most people. Bird's nest fern is an epiphyte in its native habitat across tropical Asia, Africa, and Australia, growing not in soil, but in the debris that collects in the joints of large tree branches high in the forest canopy, in the warm, humid, indirect light that filters through large leaves from directly overhead. A bathroom ceiling light is closer to its native light environment than a south-facing windowsill. Keep the compost consistently moist. Avoid watering directly into the central rosette, which causes rot in newly forming frond. The next plant appeared in records from ancient Babylon over 4,000 years ago, and has been cultivated continuously since. Number 2. Lucky bamboo. Lucky bamboo is not actually bamboo. It is Dracæna sanderiana, and the confusion between the two is both understandable and worth clarifying. What lucky bamboo shares with true bamboo is structural flexibility in terrible condition. It grows in West African rainforest, understories in low light, high humidity, and warm temperatures, conditions reproduced in most bathrooms more accurately than in any other room in a standard home. Here's what most people find remarkable. Lucky bamboo has been used in Chinese feng shui practice for over 4,000 years, cultivated in the shadiest rooms of homes and temples because its ability to maintain green, vigorous growth in near darkness was interpreted as an expression of life force. The botanical reality is that a plant valued for 4,000 years for thriving in dark interiors has been specifically selected across that entire period for exactly the trait most houseplant buyers need. It grows in water alone, without soil, roots in a vase, a pebble to anchor it, a change of water every 2 weeks, no soil, no drainage questions, no repotting schedule. The most minimal maintenance plant on this list. Keep away from pets. Toxic to cats and dogs if ingested. The final plant on this list has survived conditions that make everything above it look comfortable by comparison. Number 1, devil's ivy. The name is the first clue. Devil's ivy, Epipremnum aureum, earned its common name from a single documented characteristic that botanical researchers found initially difficult to credit. The plant does not die when placed in darkness. It enters a dormant-like state, ceases active growth, and waits. When light returns, it resumes growing from exactly the point where it stopped, without the dieback and recovery period that most plants require after light deprivation. Here is what most people have no idea about. Devil's ivy was documented growing inside an underground car park in Australia, surviving entirely on the artificial lighting used to illuminate the parking space. Light levels so low that researchers measuring them had difficulty explaining how any photosynthetic organism could sustain itself. The plant was not just surviving, it was producing new growth at artificial car park lighting intensity, in a space with no windows and no natural light whatsoever. In its native habitat on the Society Islands of French Polynesia, devil's ivy grows on forest floors so far beneath the canopy that the light reaching it has been filtered, reflected, scattered, and diminished by every layer of vegetation above. The plant responded to that pressure by evolving one of the most efficient, low-light photosynthetic systems in the plant kingdom. It removes benzene, formaldehyde, carbon monoxide, and xylene from indoor air while doing all of it, making it the only plant on this list that combines genuine, extreme low light tolerance with documented air purification at the level NASA researchers measured. Toxic if ingested. Keep away from children and pets. Here's the image to carry with you. In an underground car park in Australia, a devil's ivy was growing in complete darkness, interrupted only by fluorescent parking light. It was not struggling. It was not declining. It was producing new leaves. That plant is what every entry on this list is related to. They come from the floors of ancient forests, where sunlight was a rumor, not a resource. And they built their entire biology around making something from almost nothing. Stop assuming dark rooms cannot have plants. Start with the species that evolved in the dark, and watch what happens to a room that everyone assumed could not grow anything at all. Click the next video on the left. Because what we cover there about transforming the most neglected rooms in your home with plants that actually belong in them takes everything on this list further than this single video had space to go.